Well, the second part of Angry Birds Mystery Island has released. As you'll know, I made a review on part 1 of the show, and you guys really enjoyed it. So I thought, since part 2 is out, I should make another review. After watching all of part 2, I definitely have some thoughts. In this video, I'll be reviewing every episode of Mystery Island Season 1 Part 2, and we're also going to be answering these questions. Did Mystery Island improve from the last time we talked about it, and has my opinion about the show changed? Hopefully by the end of this review, we shall have the answer to these questions. Now, before we get started, I do want to clarify that this video will contain spoilers for Mystery Island Season 1 Part 2. Not like most of you care anyway, but for those who do, there's your disclaimer. Also, if you haven't, I heavily recommend watching my first review on this show, otherwise, you'll be really confused about what's going on. Not like this show is so mentally confusing already to the point that nothing makes sense. Enough rambling, let's get back into reviewing the world's most unnecessary Angry Birds series. The first episode of this part starts with our 4 main characters. Mia, Rosie, Buddy, and Hamilton. Yeah, I bet you all forgot these kids existed. Honestly, if that's the case, I don't blame you. It seems like for a while the characters have been disturbed by the laughing of this creature, the laugh of which sounds like the Joker. Anyways, the group comes up with another plan to escape the island. It seems like the trend for how these episodes go is they come up with a plan to go home, something interferes, they solve a problem, repeat. So, what genius idea do these kids come up with? You're never gonna believe it. They fly home! Oh my god, birds learning how to fly. I never thought I would see the day. Eventually, they meet this bat character named Bat Bat. Bat Bat acts like somewhat of a mentor towards the group and teaches them how to fly. And it turns out the creature making that creepy Joker laugh is known as a jokel. I'll just skip to the interesting part. It turns out that Rosie is actually half deaf, so she can only hear through one ear. While navigating through the fog to find her friends, did I mention that they get separated? Rosie gets stuck in quicksand. Oh no! Quicksand? Whatever will she do? Apparently flapping her wings hard enough that a vine falls and she's able to pull herself out. After she witnessed her friend almost being sucked into quicksand, Mia gets pissed at the bat. Later on, Rosie is by herself and oh my god, it's the Joker! I mean, the Jokel. Taking Bat Bat's advice, the group manages to get the Jokel stuck in quicksand thanks to Rosie. But the Jokel escapes.
Okay.
That's it for the first episode, but before we move on to episode 2, there's something I want to mention. So I decided to check the end credits of this episode to see who voices Bat Bat, whom is voiced by this guy named Taquad Trotter, who apparently is a rapper. Interesting. Also, Deed Bradley Baker as the voice of the Jokel. Now, if you're a Star Wars fan, then this name should sound familiar. For those who don't know, Deed Bradley Baker voices the Clone Troopers in the Clone Wars TV show. While being famous for that, he also provides the voice for various creatures and beasts throughout media, like the worm creature from part 1 of Mystery Island. Keep this all in mind, because that's going to be important later. In episode 2, the group comes up with another idea to return home. What is it this time? They build a submarine. We also find out that Buddy has claustrophobia. When they go under the sea, Mia declares herself as captain of the submarine. Why wouldn't she? After a scuffle, their submarine is captured by some squids, who Rosie is able to communicate with. And Buddy, that's a different story. The 3 squid, which are also children, take the submarine to their parents. At that point, the group is taken hostage by giant squid. The only way our main characters are able to escape this time around is if they play a game with the squids called Squidditch. Do they win? What do you think? Though, Mom and Dad over here are not pleased. Thanks to Buddy causing a distraction, they are able to escape. The sub is chased by the squids, and Finny returns. I didn't miss her or anything, but okay. The group makes it out alive, then Buddy freaking kills the submarine by fist bumping it. That was episode 2, but there's one thing I want to talk about that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I had to rewatch the episode a few times to verify what I was seeing. So, you know how Mia, Buddy, Rosie, and Hamilton had to win that game against the squids? They had to exit the submarine to do that? Well, based on the simple design of the submarine, as well as the fact that there's only one way to get in, and the fact that you have to open the hatch to get inside of the sub, how would they be able to exit the submarine without a whole bunch of water flushing in? Now, something else I did observe is that there is glass at the bottom of the submarine, so it may be possible that they could have just opened the glass, but at the same time, how would they move that glass without any tools? You know what? I think it's best that we move on before I quite literally lose my sanity. Oh dude, it's a kid's show! It's not supposed to be reality! Stop thinking things too deep! It's not supposed to make sense! Shut up, we're moving on. For the third episode of the show that literally no Angry Birds fan asked for, it has a whodidit / Scooby-Doo theme to it. You'll see what I mean. A parrotfish gets trapped in a bag and almost suffocates, but is saved thanks to Rosie. Speaking of which, Rosie tells the others that someone deliberately put that parrotfish in the bag. So, Hamilton plays detective and tries to find out who put Laura Palmtree in the bag. Laura Palmtree is the name of the parrotfish, by the way. Oh, and Buddy has no idea what a suspect is. I get he's like, how old are these characters actually? Never mind. Later on, Buddy, Rosie, and Mia decide to help find the one responsible, and they all cosplay as the mystery gang from Scooby-Doo for some reason. I get the show is called Mystery Island, but you kids are not the Scooby Gang, and you, don't impersonate my man Shaggy like that. They spot some kind of frog and follow it to some shrine. Then the frog starts to speak some gibberish, which sounds like it may be in reverse. Then Hamilton enters his cave, where there's an evil version of Hamilton that appears through the reflection of the waterfall. And we also find out that Hamilton was the one who trapped Laura in the bag. He didn't mean it, of course, but at least he'll know better next time. Will he, though? As for this episode, from this point onwards, more and more references will start to appear, so don't be surprised. Egg suddenly goes missing, and the plot is pretty much predictable. Everyone goes off to find Egg. They get caught up in a waterfall, almost die again, then they end up in another shrine, and you won't believe who is in this shrine. Viewers far and wide, may I present... Marlin! So, Mystery Island does have some lore to it. If you're wanting to know about the lore of Angry Birds Mystery Island, I am not the person to explain it, but I guess I'll give you my theory on what's going on. So, a while ago, there was an Angry Birds comic released earlier this year that introduced a new character, that being Marlin. The plot of the comic was that there's a mysterious storm wreaking havoc on Bird Island. Marlin was the only volunteer to help figure out what the storm was. At the end of the comic, he disappears. So it seems that Rovio is connecting that comic to Mystery Island. I don't know if Marlin from the comic and Marlin from Mystery Island are the same character. It's likely that they are, and honestly, I really don't care. Anyways, Marlin says that he's been on the island for a long time, and he was actually the one who took Egg and renamed it to Mini Marlin. Also, I seem to catch this small detail with Buddy's tail. I'm not sure if this is an animation error, but if it is, I won't hold it against the show. And since Marlin came from a universe where birds and pigs hate each other, Hamilton has to disguise himself as a bird. With Hamilton as a distraction, Mia, Rosie, and Buddy pull a Mission Impossible and try to get Egg back. They succeed. The show then pulls an Indiana Jones with Mia replacing the Egg with a coconut, and a giant ball tries to kill everyone, blah blah blah. Marlin finds out Hamilton is a pig, and Hamilton gives Marlin a lecture that just because he's a pig doesn't mean he's any different from a bird. Marlin does listen, but then attempts to keep Hamilton, but decides not to. We're halfway there, guys. We're halfway there. Everybody but Buddy is bored as hell, so Buddy comes up with the idea to go camping, which actually sounds really fun. I imagine they all would want to camp in a really nice place. They camp in a swamp. Mia also mentioned something about a camera crew, and I know that's a reference to something, but I could honestly care less because this show is filled with so many references. That's something I do want to talk about too, but I'll do that later in the video. Hamilton goes out to find bamboo for the tent and finds one of those chocolate shovels that turned Rosie and Buddy into zombies. This is going to be important later. The fireflies show up, but the group notices how few of them there are. The fireflies explain how there's a beast taking all their food, and as a result, they have to migrate to other places to find food. This entire show is giving me a migraine. The beast in question is this aardvark-looking thing, who is also voiced by D. Bradley Baker. The group devises a plan to stop the beast, and it turns out the aardvark just really likes these chocolate truffles. After finding enough, the aardvark leaves, the fireflies return, and the group finally has the camping trip they were looking for. Hamilton has a hoarding issue. He doesn't know what to get rid of and what to keep. He notices a gem-filled cave on the island, looks at his reflection, then appears evil Hamilton, who frames the real Hamilton for littering. His friends are upset. Yeah, it's one of those plots. I've seen this already like a million times. And here is where the references get really out of hand. In one scene, there is a Star Wars reference where Rosie is holding a Mandalorian helmet. Also the title of the episode too, The Clone Wars, as in The Clone Wars? Get it? Because D. Bradley Baker is in this show, and he voices the clone troopers in the Clone Wars? Are you laughing yet? Yes guys, I am a Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, I really do. But I have to say, all of these references do not help the show's case. I understand this is a kid's show, and it's not made for teenagers like me, but a good show needs to have good writing, and can't solely rely on pop culture references all the time. Anyways, evil Hamilton traps the real Hamilton in a crystal gem, and unsurprisingly, Hamilton breaks out and the two duel it out. Then there's a scene where the birds try to figure out who is the real Hamilton. The real Hamilton notices a fidget spinner in the water and picks it up, which I can't even remember the last time anyone actually enjoyed one of these things. I genuinely forgot that fidget spinners were a thing. Oh yeah, there's this thing that happens with Mia's rock and she unleashes some Dragon Ball Z move on the evil Hamilton. That's definitely foreshadowing at something. I know Rovio is going to make another part. They made an entire treasure pass, hat set, and even a quiz dedicated to Mystery Island, which really shows how much they care for this thing. They care more about a hatchling show than their actual fans. Typical Rovio. Buddy goes out to the dump to find something good. Hopefully it's not a working phone. He finds a magic trick kit that is held hostage by these crabs. Buddy also mentions that his idol is some magician named David McCopperfield, who is based on a guy named David McCopperfield. Wow, I'm so surprised. Buddy finds an Oscar award. A frog tries to take it, of course. There's another reference. This time it's a parody on The Dark Knight. Buddy trades the Oscar for the magic trick kit. And there's another Star Wars reference. You know what? I'll see if I can actually play the clip.
Of Star Wars, The Rise of Pig Skywalker?
Yep. This pig just referenced one of the worst Star Wars movies to ever exist. At this point, I was gonna quit watching and scrap this review entirely, but since I love you guys so much, I decided to press forward. For you guys. You all kept me going. So, there's a magic show and Buddy makes Egg disappear. Or at least, that's what everybody thinks. Then there's a strange noise originating from somewhere, and it sounds like this. As the group investigates the noise, this is where they realize Egg is not actually with them. But who cares about that? Let's highlight some of the critical moments of this episode. Buddy and Hamilton get trapped in quicksand. Some drawings on the walls that I don't care about. Egg grows legs, and this thing was making those noises. Come on, just one more episode. One more episode. I can definitely keep my sanity intact for one more episode. Okay, here we go. A workout segment is interrupted by the active volcano on the island, so they need to find a way to stop it. After a failed first attempt, they actually use the angrybirds source material and fly themselves to the volcano. Oh my god, are you serious? Rovio actually going back to their old roots? I must be living in a dream! Now, imagine if you're in this scenario. You and your friends are trapped on an island. The volcano on the island is about to erupt, and you all want to try to stop it. What exactly would you do? Well, realistically, there isn't much you can do to stop a volcano from erupting, but since this is Angry Birds Mystery Island, a show that defies all the laws of physics and science, The way you can stop an active volcano is if you dance/do kung fu around the vent of the volcano, knocking enough snow into the volcano, and in turn, stop it from erupting. God, this show's writing is awful.
You idiot! It's a kid's show. It's not supposed to make sense. L plus ratio.
Anybody with at least 2 working brain cells can see bad writing. They have a snowball fight at the end, foreshadowing, etc., etc. Well, let's talk about it. Angry Birds Mystery Island Season 1 Part 2 is certainly something. Now, let us answer the question, shall we? Did Mystery Island improve from the last time we talked about it? Short answer, no. Has my opinion about the show changed? Also, no. Did Mystery Island get any worse though? Not really. I feel like almost nothing has changed with this show. While yes, there's a lot more going on, Part 2 still suffers from the same writing issues as Part 1. I'm referring to the abundance of pop culture references. Usually, pop culture references within a show is not a problem. It can actually be funny when it's done right. But the reason why this fails with Mystery Island is because the show heavily relies on pop culture references to pass off as comedy. It's not funny, and it's just annoying. Again, I get the show is for kids, but the writers are not creative enough to make their own jokes and solely rely on pop culture references to make kids laugh. That is not a good sign. I also found out that the head writer of Mystery Island worked on 2 other shows, those being Futurama and Teen Titans Go. Okay, that explains the bad writing. And it looks like that 5 out of 10 is going to remain a 5 out of 10 for a while. But those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed watching Mystery Island and think it's good, I won't judge. You have the right to like a show. Thank you all for watching this review. If you can, please leave a like on this video to help restore the brain cells I lost watching this abomination. Also, why don't you subscribe for more content like this? A bunch of you watching my videos are not subscribed anyway, so it'll really help. Now if you excuse me, I'm gonna look at some cat videos to make myself feel better. Love you guys, and take care.